Shri Radha Krishna Bhogavna Sam Radha Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadip Dham ki jai, Skanda Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Guru Bhagavad Dham ki jai, Swami the Bhaktivinoda ki jai, all glories to them, all glories to them. Thank you very much.
ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति सुपथन्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोशयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथं वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं राधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललितशिविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकाकन्थ राधाकन्थ नमस्तुते। तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदवनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि श्री गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। So welcome everyone. Continuation of our chapter 18, third canto, the Lord and the battle between the Lord and Hiranyaksha. So thank you so much. So we stopped with text 10. Okay, so or 9 really. Okay, Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye. Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Grantaraja Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. So in the previous chapter, we were discussing about the unpleasant character and the nature of the demons and their mindset, destructive mindset, and their arrogance and their pride, and how they think that they can actually control everything, destroy everything. But we saw that the world is so created with controlling agencies under the care of Lord Vishnu. So they cannot do very much. So anyone wants to contribute to what we discussed yesterday? You want to make a few points so that we can reconnect? I think we should do that religiously so that we know where we're at. Okay. Yeah, and also welcome to Shalika Prabhu, right? You're back in Africa?
Hare Krishna. Yes, I'm back to Nigeria now. I'm in Lagos. I'm actually in Ogun State now. I came to Lagos on Friday. I traveled to Ibadan yesterday. I'm in Ogun State now. I'll go back to Lagos later today. Then tomorrow I'll go back to Jos.
So anyone wants to contribute to what we discussed? Just make some bridge between.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
What?
Yes. What I just want to contribute is that while Hiranyaksha was abusing Lord Vishnu, especially the time he was trying to perform the duty of rescuing the planet Earth from the bottom of the ocean. So he did not react because of the duty he was performing. And the reason that was given was that Lord Vishnu was trying to show example to the demigods that while performing your duties, they should not be afraid of any demon. So,
okay. Anything else?
Generally, in Hiranyaksha, he succeeded in disturbing, the whole of the universe, and everybody was afraid of him. Then later, he now entered into the ocean and went deep to the abode of Varuna, where he challenged him. But Varuna advised him that he should go and fight Lord Vishnu, and that he was too old to fight. And he also predicted the results of the fight, if he has to fight with Lord Vishnu, that is going to kill him.
Yes, those very insulting words from both sides. Sarcasm from Lord Varun Dev, who was in his capital of Vaibhava in the ocean, and a big problem with the fear that was caused by Hiranyaksha. He didn't engage into, he was just killing a few demons and then interrupting the service of the few demigods, and then everyone was really afraid to see him. His huge, gigantic body, very muscular, very strong, very powerful, opulent. So they were afraid of him. So then they were hiding. So he went to find out Varun Dev. Varun Dev was in his capital. And Lord Varuna didn't actually said, I'm not going to fight with you. I'm too old. You should find someone a bit more suitable for your age and for your valor. So he said, the best is you find out Lord Vishnu. Okay. So today we start with that, with text 10. Okay. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Okay, so again, third canto, chapter 18, text 10. Satyam vayam bho vanago charamriga yushmad vidan mrigaye gamam siham samrityun pasai pratimuktasya varha vikattanam tava grinanti yabhadra. The personality of God had said, indeed, we are creatures of the jungle and we are searching after hunting dogs like you. So Lord Vishnu was replying to him in a very, very heavy way. And he said, yes, indeed, we are, jungle creatures, but we are looking for hunting dogs like you. And he's saying that to Hiranyaksha. One who is freed from the entanglement of death has no fear from the loose talk in which you are indulging. So he said, I am not, in any way afraid of death. I am free from death. Death, which means time, which means the end of this life, is not an issue for me. Because in other words, he's saying, you can do whatever you like. I'm not going to die. You're not going to kill me. So I'm free from the entanglement of death, right? So I have no fear from your loose talks. And he's saying to me, because you are bound by the laws of death, right? So Prabhupada in the purport is saying, demons and atheists can go on insulting the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they forget that they're subjected to the laws of birth and death. They think that simply by decrying the existence of the Supreme Lord or defying his stringent laws of nature, one can be freed from the clutches of birth and death. Demons, they have this habit of always trying to insult. They're trying to deride. They're trying to minimize the importance of God. But they think that simply by doing so, they can defy the Lord. But the Lord comes in this most indomitable form of time, Kala, and the ultimate manifestation of Kala in the life of any person is death. And when this Kala, manifestation of time, comes in the form of death, it causes massive changes in our lives. And there's nothing we can do. We're just a silent witness or a sufferer. And we can do nothing. Nothing can be done. So death will take away, will change your perception, will change your instruments of perception. It will change your perception, change your mind to a point. It will change your intelligence. It will change your body. It will change everything. Right? The body will be completely broken down and given a new body. And the mind will be changed to a point. Because of the nasty experience of death, the mind will also be reconditioned. It will be the same mind, but it will be reconditioned. The intelligence will have gone through some purification by the unpleasantness of death. And the ego will have taken a big knock, thinking that we can carry on doing what we want to do, but death puts a stop to it. So death is really a change, a massive change of perception. How we perceive things completely changes. Because we are in a new set of environment, new set of relationships, new world, new family, new everything. So death is actually a big change. So these stringent laws of nature, one can be freed from the clutches of birth and death. But it is simply said that you can do that if you understand the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. But demons and atheists, they don't try to understand the nature of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they remain in this entanglement of birth and death. Right? They remain in the entanglement of birth and death. Sometimes it's good to think of death in other ways. It's good to think of death in many ways, so that you are aware. You can understand that death is actually a time of change. Change of perception, change of body, change of my environment, change of what I see, what I don't see, change as to what I relate, I don't relate, but I'm going to be the same person. So basically you're moved from one place and put into another place. And you go through a period of sleep and then you wake up into a new place, new experiences, and a new body. So there you are. So So that no one can change. So text 11. Ete vayam nyasahara rashakasam gata yogadaya dravitaste Stamahe atapi katanchitajo shreyang komamo balinot padyavairam. Certainly we have stolen the charge of the inhabitants of Rasatal and have lost all shame. Although beaten by your powerful mace, I shall stay here in the water for some time because having created enemy with a powerful enemy, I now have no place to go. So he is speaking in very sarcastic term, the Lord is speaking as if, yeah, okay, you've taken this place called Rasatal from us, but I'm going to stay here because I have no place to go. So in one sense, he's saying, why is he saying that? Why is he using this language? The Lord is using this language with Hiranyaksha. Anyone can guess? Anyone can think? It's simply because he had made everyone run away. Everyone is being scattered hither, and everyone, all the administrative people, all the powerful people have gone into hiding. They're all gone into hiding because of the powerful nature of Hiranyaksha. Is walking around terrorizing everyone. But the Lord is saying to him, okay, you've taken this place of residence of Rasatala, fine. And you've lost all shame, fine. Right? Although bitten, which means that kind of worried also by your powerful, I shall stay here. He said, I will stay here. I'm not running away like everyone else was running away. I will stay here in the water for some time. Because I've created enmity with you. And you're a powerful enemy, and I can't go anywhere. So it's like, that's really a very challenging kind of way of presenting things. The Lord is very expert. So Lord Vishnu is saying to him, I can't go anywhere. Because you are the greatest enemy I have here. And I have no place to go. So let's see. Let's see. What can you do? So the demon should have known that God cannot be driven out of any place. Because he's all pervading. Demons think of their possessions or their property, but actually everything belongs to the Supreme Lord, who can take anything he wants at any time. So text 12. You are supposed to be the commander of many foot soldiers, and now you may take prompt steps to overthrow us. Give up all your foolish talk and wipe out the cares of your kith and kin, and by slaying us. One may be proud, yet he does not deserve a seat in an assembly if he fails. So to fulfill his promise, he said, you can say whatever you like. You've been talking a lot. And you've been saying that you're going to remove all of us. Now fulfill your promise. Otherwise, just empty talks. Right? And see if you can deserve a seat in an assembly, as you are saying that you're so powerful. So try to remove me. Okay? So you can overthrow me. Let's see. So the Lord, he is challenging the demon. He said, you said that you're going to remove all of us. Try, fulfill your promise, otherwise just empty talks. It's very heavy talks. It's like really, two fighters challenging each other. So now Maitreya Rishi speaks. Maitreya Muni said, the demon, having been thus challenged by the personality of God, it became angry and agitated, and it trembled in anger like a challenged cobra. So first he said, you're like one of these hunting dogs, and we are wild animals, because the Lord has appeared as Vanagochara, which means a wild boar from the forest. So he said, we're happy to meet, hunting dogs like you, and we will take care of you. And then he said, I'm not going anywhere because you've taken all the place. So challenge me, fight. Otherwise, just empty talks. So then the demon started to tremble, become agitated, and he started to hiss like a challenged cobra. Okay. So text 14, hissing indignantly, all his senses shaken by wrath, the demon quickly sprang upon the Lord. And dealt him a blow with his powerful mace. So in his anger, in his wrath, he jumped up with his powerful mace and he gave a blow to the Supreme Lord. So, but the Lord, however, by moving slightly, he just moved slightly. He dodged the violent mace blow aimed at his breast by the enemies. Right? Just as an accomplished yogi would elude death. So, the Lord was very swift and he moved on the side and he was not hit. Okay, let's read the text 16. The personality of God had now exhibited his anger and rushed to meet the demon, who bit his lip in a rage. Because he missed with his powerful mace, now he was in rage and he was biting his lip. And then he took up his mace again and began to repeatedly brandish it, trying to, swirl his mace to try to hit the Lord. When with his mace, the Lord struck the enemy on the right of his brow. But since the demon was expert in fighting, so the Lord actually hit him on his forehead, on the right side of his brow. But since the demon was expert in fighting, O gentle Vidura, he protected himself by a maneuver of his own mace. So it's the Gada youth, the fighting with the mace, and the enemy, which is here Hiranyaksha, he tried to avoid being hit. In this way, the demon Hiranyaksha and the Lord, the personality of Godhead, struck each other with their huge maces, each enraged and seeking his own glory. So they were actually engaged in this huge fight now, right? They were striking each other. So here the demon is called Haryaksha. Haryaksha is also the name for Hiranyaksha. It's another name. So let's read the text. It's all simple narrative, so we'll just read unless there is some interesting philosophical points that we have to see whether Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has made some comment on this. So 318, let me see.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
This fight reminds me, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, go on, Prabhuji.
Yeah, that's my comment. It just reminds me, during the days of Muhammad Ali, so he used to adopt some system. We provoke the opponent, and once the opponent is provoked, then they start making empty blows. I think Lord Vishnu used this tactics also.
Yeah. Lord Vishnu is the original fighter. Everyone else uses his.
He's copying.
Everyone uses his technique. He doesn't use anyone else's technique.
Yeah, that's right.
Just give me a minute. What's happening here? Okay. Not much comments there from the Lord, so we'll just carry on. So text 19. There was a keen rivalry between the two combatants. Both had sustained injuries on their bodies from the blows of each other's pointed mace, and each grew more and more enraged at the smell of blood on his person. In their eagerness to win, they performed maneuvers of various kinds, and the contest looked like an encounter between two forceful bulls for the sake of a cow. So that was the whole idea of the Lord wanted to have some really huge fight. So here, Hiranyaksha is actually accomplishing the desire of the Lord to engage in some sporting fights and play. Okay. So here the earth is called Ila. The earth was formerly, Sarika, you have to mute. The earth was formerly known as Ilavrata Varsha. And when Maharaj Parikshit ruled the earth, it was called Bharata Varsha. Actually, Bharat Varsha is a name of the entire planet. But gradually Bharat Varsha has come to mean India. As India had recently been divided into Pakistan and Hindustan, which is India, Bharat. Similarly, the earth was formerly called Ilavrata Varsha. But gradually, as time passed, it was divided by national boundaries. So here is a powerful statement by Srila Prabhupada. This is a statement by Srila Prabhupada saying that the earth was all one planet under one rule. Sarika Prabhu, you have to mute. Okay, so the fight between the Lord, Prabhupada is saying here that in text 19, that the earth planet is called Ila, and it was called Ilavrata Varsha. And then later on, it was called Bharata Varsha. The thing is, Prabhupada given the example, just like a certain national boundary was created out of India to make Bangladesh and Pakistan. And previously, Afghanistan was part of India. It's called Gandhar Desh, Gandhar. And Gandhar Desh was Gandhari and Sakuni, they live there. Now, similarly, Cambodia was Cambodge. And you see closer, Indonesia was also part of India. And Harivarsha was China, part of India. So different countries were actually part of the Ilavrata Varsha. But just like we see recently, India has been carved up again, right? So at some point, different countries create their own national boundaries, but they were all part of the Bharat Varsha. So the Indian culture, the Sanatani culture was all over the world. And different groups of people, different societies, different countries, they worship the Lord differently. But it was all different religious or systems of sacrifice and worship that came off as offshoots of the Sanatana Dharma, mixed with people's own cultural identities. The Prabhupada is saying this here. So text 20, O descendant of Kuru, Brahma, the most independent demigod of the universe, accompanied by his followers, came to see the terrible fight for the sake of the world. The demon and the personality of God who appeared in the form of a bow. So that was predicted that he would be engaging in huge fight, and therefore the demigods, accompanied by Brahma, they came to see this huge fight. And generally these fights go on for a very long period of time. It is not just like, 15-round match and it's done in an hour. It can go on for a very, very long period of time. Okay. So, we read text 21. After arriving at the place of combat, Brahma, the leader of thousands of sages and transcendentalists, saw the demon, who had attained such unprecedented power that no one could fight with him. Brahma then addressed Narayan, who was assuming the form of a bow. So then this was going on for a long period of time. And then when the Brahma came and he saw what was going on, and he saw the unprecedented power on both sides. And therefore, Brahma addressed Narayan, Lord Vishnu, Lord Narayan, who had assumed the form of a bow. So Brahma Vacha, Angri Mulam Upeyusam Vipranam Saurabheyinam Bhutanam Api Anaghasang Agaskrit Bhayakrit Duskrit Ashmadradha Varo Sura Anvesam Pratirato Lokanatati Kanyakam. Lord Brahma said, my dear Lord, this demon has proved to be constant pinprick to the demigods, the brahmanas and the cows and innocent persons who are spotless and always dependent upon worshipping your lotus feet. So Lord Brahma is saying that the nature of this person is devilish, it's demoniac. Because generally, anyone who is on the side of the Lord, they do respect the brahmanas, the cows, the innocent persons, just like the old men or women or children. But he said, this person has been disrespecting cows, brahmanas, men, women, older men, women, and children who have no enmity towards him. And they are good people who've been harassed by him. So he said, he has become a source of fear. So fear and terror is what we have now, right? For a period of time, there was not so much open terrorism in the world, but there was some other terrorism, like huge war, like First, Second World War. But now we have another kind of system that is giving a whole lot of terror. So this fear, this terror, is part of the arrangement of life in material world. So he said he's been given constant fear and harassing people. Since he has attained a boon from me, he has become a demon, always searching for a proper combatant, wandering all over the universe for his infamous purpose. So here we don't know what the boon Hiranyaksha had obtained, but I think his boon is linked to Hiranyakashipu. But obviously it's not the same, exactly the same boon. Okay. In the purport, Prabhupada is saying, two classes of living entities. One is called Sura, the demigod, and the other one is called Asura, or the demons. Demons are generally fond of worshipping the demigods, and there are evidences that by such worship they get extensive power for their sense gratification. This later proves to be a cause of trouble to the Brahmanas, demigods, and other innocent living entities. Demons habitually find fault with demigods. Demigods and other innocent living entities. Demons habitually find fault, we know that, to whom they are a constant source of fear. The way of a demon is to take power from the demigods and then tease the demigods themselves. There is an instance of a great devotee of Lord Shiva who obtained boon from Lord Shiva that the head of whom I touched with his hand would come off his trunk. And as soon as a boon was offered to him, the demon wanted to touch the head of Lord Shiva, because they don't give too much credibility to love. There's no real love between the worshippers of the demigods and the demigods. Love is only possible with the devotee and the Lord. So there is like, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. I make some austerities and sacrifice, which is beneficial for the demigod. Then in return, you give me some boons and benediction. There's hardly much love, because whenever we are doing something for material benefits, for artha, economic prosperity, or for sense enjoyment, karma, there's no, we're actually unable to understand our nature as servant. So therefore, it is only a business transaction. So sometimes it doesn't go well. And the fact that sometimes the demons, even though they get the boon from the demigods, now they start to challenge the demigods. It goes to show that there's really no love. There's no love. They just, the Prabhupada said it's a business transaction. It's like you buy something from someone and then you try to sell it to the person's children for a higher price. You think like, you buy something from someone and you try to sell it to a relative or the children or the person with a higher price. So you buy something and you give the money to the person, and then you think that, okay, it's a kind of devotion, it's kind of thankfulness. It isn't. It isn't at all. You did something to get something. It's material. Yeah, it's fruity. We do something to get something. So
okay, can we see self-centered? self-centered also. Self-centered.
Understand your
The
language.
demons. I say demons, self-centered. Can we say their attitude is self-centered? They think of
Well,
themselves
yeah,
alone.
the demon, but also if you have a big false ego, then you're self-centered. We are all more or less centered around ourselves when we have a bodily conception of life. So we are materialist, which means that we are small, asuri bhav, small materialistic tendencies there in us. And the demons have a big materialistic tendencies. So we are somewhat self-centered, and the demons are self-centered 100%. So yes, this is a nature. It's not like we think of in terms of a category of a demon and a category of a devotee. That's also there. The devotees are generally obedient and helpful to the Supreme Lord, right? But the demigods also, the demigods can be, obedient and thankful to the demigods and cooperative with the demigods or the Supreme Lord. But they can also be self-centered, even though they're cooperating. We saw Indra was very self-centered, and he was very upset when things didn't go his way, right? So as soon as the boon was offered to him, the demon wanted to touch the head of the Lord Shiva. That is the way. The devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead do not have to ask any favor for sense gratification. They don't ask any favor. They give service. They glorify, they chant, they worship, they cook, they offer, they serve, but they don't ask for any sense gratification. And sometimes even if it is offered, a liberation is offered, they refuse it. You have to make me host because I cannot do anything here. The devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead do not have to ask any favor for sense gratification. Even if they are offered liberation, they refuse it. They are happy simply engaging in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So that is, we have to unmute Kamalaksha. They are happy simply engaging in the transcendental loving service. So that's love. They do not want anything. They just love the Lord and they do activities to please Him. They don't want any benedictions. They don't even want liberation. So Lord Brahma continued. You remember that episode of the desire between Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami. Rupa Goswami had written something that the desire for liberation is considered to be a witch in the path of devotional service. And Rupa Goswami had pointed this out to him. Actually, Vaibhava Acharya was there. And Vaibhava Acharya came and he saw the writing of Rupa Goswami that the desire for liberation is a witch. And Vaibhava Acharya said, how can you say that liberation is a witch? Then later on, Rupa Goswami corrected this. But later on, Jiva Goswami went ahead and he said, how can you correct Rupa Goswami? He said, he did not say that liberation is a witch. He said, in the path of devotion, the desire for liberation is a witch. Because it sucks away from the loving desire of service to the Lord. Say, for example, we become so engrossed in the desire to get liberation. And our meditation is how we're going to get liberation. Isn't that a distraction from the path of loving service of the Lord? When you think about liberation means sarupya, samipya, sashti, shalokya, etc. You think about, I'll be on the same planet of the Lord. I'll be having the same opulence of the Lord. I'll be having, the same proximity of the Lord and so on and so forth. That desire is not very, it's like competitive. I find it to be competitive with the Lord. Right. Yes, Prabhuji, what is your question? Can't hear you.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me now?
I can now.
Okay, thank you. You ask a rhetoric question now, and I wanted to relate that to the text number 6 of this chapter, because I was having in mind to ask a little bit clarification. There, the demon Elisha was insulting the Lord. The Lord was able to tolerate that, but because the earth was afraid, the Lord, instead of responding to Elisha, he took as priority to save the earth first, to relieve her of her anxiety.
Yes.
And then when we relate it to this particular text we're discussing, we're talking about the devotee sometimes could be distracted by desiring for liberation or saving from material entanglement or material anxiety as a result of fear, because ultimately the Lord is always there for the devotees, but sometimes due to our conditioning, we're always afraid. So now, my question now is, how do we balance material fear and spiritual anxiety? Because in both cases, we are afraid. And that of fear, we're in anxiety of afraid of being in a situation. So I want you to explain a little bit on this. The material anxiety.
If you want me to relate it to the desire for liberation, that's why you don't want to be in the material world. Then Bhakti Thakur said, in the beginning, it's okay. Desire for liberation is conducive. So in the beginning, desire for liberation is conducive for spiritual life.
Okay.
In the beginning, we all want to get out of this world. We think the possibility of getting out of this world is very enlivening. And whenever we talk to devotees, said, yeah, I really want to get out of this world. I don't want to be born again. That was just normal talk between devotees in an ashram in the beginning. That's quite okay. But as we grow in our devotional realization and understanding, then at some point we should think, well, wherever the Lord wants to put me, he'll be protecting me and I will not be in any fearful situation, because he is always protecting me, whether it is in this world or that world. So the fear factor will be gone, especially if you can have an experience of, actually, I find that fear, if you have a real intense remembrance of the Lord, fear goes away. If you have an intense remembrance of the beauty, of the character, of the personality, of the lotus feet of the Lord, fear does go away. Because the Lord's Smaranam is actually more important than what you call dharanashraya. That is, we're taking meditation and we're taking ashraya of meditation to be able to get liberation. So pure remembrance of the Lord and his qualities is higher than desire for liberation. So in the beginning, yeah, you can aspire for liberation. That's just normal, because we are not fully conversant with what it is really to be a pure devotee and to practice pure devotional service. I don't know whether that answers your question, but
yeah, perfectly. It does perfectly answer. So yeah, I think I think clearly it answers my question, because when we are afraid in the beginning of devotional service, because we don't want to fall down, because we want to get out of this material world, that is okay. But as we grow, like you rightly said, yeah, I think it answers my question. Yes, perfectly.
Yeah, because
but our material anxiety is different, because sometimes the need for sustenance, for maintenance in this material world also sometimes rises up. Sometimes when it has to do with because of not being pure, karmic situation still torments us. And because we're getting tormentation from our past misdeeds, so sometimes we feel so much of anxiety out of distress out of lack of money, distress out of sickness, distress out of some of these material anxieties. And then we are seeking the Lord's intervention in those situations. Take away this disease from me, take away this financial distress from me, take away this court case away from me. So that is another kind of an anxiety. So how do we relate that? Could this still be said?
Yeah, I can relate to that, because you know, when you're in a grihastha and you have a certain level of entanglement in trying to be fruitive in our endeavors. We are fruitive in our endeavors. We are devotees, but we're still fruitive in our endeavors. We make sure that we are going to get that money, we're going to do that program or that project, or we're going to travel, someone's going to pay for it, and so on and so forth. So these are, you can say it fruitive, but because we are essentially devotees, we have that anxiety, because that's just quite kind of normal. But I would say that at some point a devotee, especially if he has done his responsibility for home and stead and children, then he should just lift his hands up in the air and he said, I don't care. The Lord kills me, he kills me. If he sends me begging and borrowing on the street, so I'll get some food. Dogs are eating everywhere, so I can get some food and eat. I don't care. Right? But the thing is, not entangle ourselves in debts and legal and government issues. I'm talking from practical experience. This is one thing that plagues me for a little. Yeah.
I'm also asking from a practical experience, because
it's certain issues are still there in the back of my mind, and I just want to get rid of it. And it's not requires a lot of money to get rid of these few issues at the back. Not a lot, but because there's not much income, so I'm really dependent on the Lord. And I think it's like Lord is holding it like a sword on top of my head and said. So I am really no anxiety about it, and I just carry on, right? And for the last 3 years, it's just been a whole lot of reversals on everything I've tried to do. From the time I thought like, I'm just going to give it up. And it's been 5 years now coming. I've been trying to give it up, and I have given up most of my economic activities, all of it almost. And I'm living simply by donations, very simple. And I live very simply. The house I have is a nice big opulent house, but that was there. And I'm not getting rid of it because it's a place I like to stay. So, but the thing is, I don't have income. But since I was sick 2 years ago, I learned that somehow the Lord is going to maintain me. And if he wants to kill me, he'll kill me. That's a big deal, And so it takes, and also this is the wisdom of the years. Jara, Kalakanya, the daughter of time, which is called Kalakanya, she has a habit of really messing your mind. So old age and so on and so forth, they'll actually be easy to live. And I mean, it's a class. I cannot speak about my own experience, but it's a rich experience because I have had a very simple upbringing, no electricity, no running water. Simple. My parents were laborers and sugarcane field workers, and my siblings didn't get very much educated. I was a smart boy, so I pushed myself up to get educated. I got educated, went to university, got a college degree and got an engineering degree and so on and so forth. And then I had an opulent life, very opulent life. I never had to worry about a cent of money from the age of 30 to 50, 55. 25 years, I never knew how much money I had. I never knew how much money I spent and how much money I had. I never counted. I just lived. If I wanted to go to India, I just went to India. If I wanted to go to Africa, I just went to Africa. If I just wanted to do something, I just did something. It was just okay. But then for the last 10 years, it's not been like that. So when you come from a simple background and you live an opulent life for the main part of your youth, your 25 years, and your family and your children went to private school and everything, and you had free cars, vans, everything, and then suddenly now you don't have any income. That requires some adjusting.
Yeah.
That requires some deep adjusting. And sometimes my friends said, how do you manage? And like, I said, I'm okay, I'm fine. And it requires some adjusting, but you have to, actually, I felt like maybe I left it a little bit too late. I should have given up everything 10 years ago. I've left it 5 years too late. But Prabhupada said 50, but 55, 57. But, that you have to give it up. You have to just say, okay, enough. And let me dedicate my life to serving and preaching. And Krishna will take care of you. He will take care of you.
Thank you so much.
I'm not talking empty things. I'm talking experience.
Yeah, I can relate to what you're talking, and it's perfectly clears my doubt and answers my question. Thank you so much for hearing.
How much can you go on? Because ultimately death is going to take away everything.
Of course, sure.
So if you make some preliminary steps, like the fear was there in these books, we're talking about the fear. The demons are making plans. We're devotees, how much plan can you make? We're not demons, we're devotees. So we don't make plans. We let Krishna make plans and we just try to follow his plans. Krishna makes his plans. And he does mess you up sometimes.
Yeah.
Because he's a funny master. He plays with you. But if you can laugh at it and you can smile at it and you can say, fine, okay, that's your way anyway. You're always making jokes with everyone and you're messing with me too, that's fine. So that's a loving relationship you can have with the Lord. And if he wants to mess with you, let him mess with you. Ultimately, he's going to protect you because you are his devotee. He says, my devotee never perish. That's a good feeling to live like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much for the
Yes, Rasavan, you had your virtual arm.
Yeah, it's about the same thing, but in fact, you have said it all. That's why I dropped my hand. And I was relating it to the Bhagavad Gita text 4:10, where Krishna says, being freed from attachment, fear, and anger.
Raga dvesas, no, Vittaraga bhaya krodha, manmanaman ashita. Vittaraga bhaya krodha and
Manmayaman ashita.
Yes.
But you said it all with your practical life experience. So
Vittaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mama pashita bhavo jnana tapasha putamad bhavamagata. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger. That's a nice verse, Prabhu. Thank you. Yeah. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger. Being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me. Many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me. And thus they attained transcendental love for me. Yeah, so there is, this is so nice. This is so nice. So you're freed from attachment, fear, and anger, fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me. Right? That's a big thing, to take refuge on the Lord. Right?
Yeah.
But you can only take refuge. It's like, now let's analyze this verse. It's a process, because taking refuge of him is a process of giving up attachment, fear, and anger. So it goes, it's not like you can do, I give up these things and then I can surrender. No, because taking refuge of him means that your fear is lessened progressively. Your anger is lessened because your lust is lessened, is reduced progressively. And our detachment is increased and our attachment is reduced progressively, right? And how does that happen? This is very interesting, because this is actually following the text 4.9, which says, Janma karma chame divyam avamya veti taktota taktadham punarjanmane iti. Bhavamiti Arjuna is by knowledge of the Lord. And here he repeats it. He said, became purified by knowledge of me. This is Krishna Katha.
Yeah.
So by Krishna Katha and remembrance of the beauty and the character of the Lord and the pastimes of the Lord and the opulences of the Lord, this is Krishna Katha. This is what purifies us. So Krishna is saying here in a generic way. But really what he is telling you here in 4.9 and 4.10, as devotees, we should think, Krishna is telling us here, you fools, go and read Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what he's saying here. Right?
Yeah.
In 4.9 and 4.10. Go and read Srimad Bhagavatam. You will be taking shelter of me by reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? As devotees, we can take it like that, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah. So, and by knowledge of the absolute truth. Where do we get knowledge of the absolute truth? More detailed knowledge of his tattva, of his janma, of his karma, which is transcendental, is in Srimad Bhagavatam. So he's saying to us, that's the way. So Krishna Katha, permanently being in a situation where we are studying, reading, chanting, listening, discussing, talking about Krishna, this is a method of purification. And he's saying here, you can become purified by knowledge of me. So what do we get knowledge of Krishna? We get knowledge of the tattva of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Do we get knowledge of the pastimes and the quality of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita? No. We know the truth about the Lord. But do we know the detailed activities, pastimes, character, bhagas, we don't. We get that more in Krishna Katha, in Bhagavatam, in Bhagavad Purana. So thank you, Prabhu. It's nice you brought this up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Brahma is worried. So Lord Brahma is saying, why are you playing with him? Why are you playing with him? He is a serpentine demon. And, and he is very skilled in conjuring tricks and is arrogant. Right? Don't mess around with him, just, and he's most wicked. And he says, why? And he continued. And he said, my dear Lord, you're infallible. I know you will not fail. You're infallible. Yeah. But please kill this sinful demon before the demoniac hour arrives. Before it comes to like evening time, dusk time, when you have Shiva Muhurta and then it goes late in the night. When and then he says it presents another formidable approach favorable to him, because certain times are favorable for demons. Now it's a good time for you. I know you're infallible. So it's like the prayer of Lord Brahma is very interesting. He's saying to him, I'm not doubting that. I'm not doubting you're not going to succeed because you're infallible. But there's some silly hour coming in. Some strange time coming now. And that time will be favorable for him. Right? So he said, you can kill him by your internal potency without doubt. Right? And then he says, my Lord, the darkest evening which covers the world is fast approaching. Since you are, this is text 26, since you are the soul of all souls, kindly kill him and win victory for the demigods. I mean, the Lord made the arrangement to have a good fight with him. So obviously the Lord is not going to kill him in the first blow of his mace. That was the whole idea of Jai Vijay coming down, is to have a big, fighting match. So, but Brahma is worried. So he said the auspicious period known as Abhijit, which is most important for victory. So this Abhijit Nakshatra, it is considered to be the 28th Nakshatra of the moon. Generally, there is 27 Nakshatra of the moon, and some astrologers say there is 28th Nakshatra. This is an angle that the moon will enter into the zodiac. And he said, the auspicious period known as Abhijit, which means awarding victory. For sure, Abhijit means it is a yoga which is auspicious for victory. He said it's commenced at midday. And has all but passed. Therefore, in the interest of your friends, please dispose of this. So he said, the Abhijit Nakshatra, which goes for a certain period of time, right? Generally, a nakshatra goes for, I don't know, so many degrees of the zodiac when the moon is moving into different houses. And he said it started midday, now it has gone. So the good period for killing him is gone. So please dispose of him now, right? But the thing is, does the Lord require any auspicious time to kill or not to kill? Whatever he does become auspicious. Because he killed Hiranyakashipu. Dusk, and dusk is not considered very auspicious. And this is a time where we should not be doing any funny things and sleeping or something like that. But he killed him at that time, which is therefore became auspicious. So now we read the text 29. The demon, luckily for us, has come of his own accord to you. So Brahma is saying that he's come to you. Yeah, he has come to fight the Lord and to find the Lord, to fight with the Lord, because he went to challenge Varun Dev, and Varun Dev said to him, he said, go and fight with Vishnu. He's a better opponent. I'm too old. My time for war is past. I cannot fight. So it would be silly for you to fight someone who is not to your caliber. So go find Lord Vishnu. So he did come to find Lord Vishnu, and therefore he is death ordained by you. Therefore, exhibiting your ways, kill him in the duel. Establish the world in peace. Right? So this is what's happening now. So this is the battle between Lord and Hiranyaksha. Okay. In other Puranas, you will hear a lot more detail of the battle. But there's only a few information about the battle here. Okay. So now we read chapter 19. So any questions or comments? Okay, Maitreya Uvacha, Avadharya Virinchasya.
Yeah. Sorry, before we go into the new chapter, I'm reflecting on the text number 27, which is talking about the Abhijit, the auspicious moments. Sometimes in our practice of devotional service, sometimes due to our probably not purely situated, so we consider auspicious and inauspicious. And in the context of what we're reading, the demigods were speaking, Lord Brahma specifically talking about this. And how much does this, do we consider this in our practice of devotional service? Because sometimes we get, especially when you're in Christian life, there's this conception that even though we're in devotional service, we still have to follow some of these ritualistic, auspicious, not auspicious, this and that. So can you give some little comment on that in relation to every aspect of our devotional life?
But Lord Brahma is talking about it himself here. So obviously, auspicious and inauspicious times have to be considered for, we have to sleep particularly at a time because it is auspicious to sleep at that time and wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning because it is auspicious. So we follow an auspicious ritual of waking and going to bed and engaging in different activities. And we chant our Grahiti according to certain rituals. So it is given some importance. But when we are doing certain sanskaras, when we're doing certain pujas, we're doing, some nitya karmas. Nitya karmas are those things that we do regularly, ritually every day. Right? We chant every day, we do puja every day, we do those things. Now, those things we have to carry on, whether it is an auspicious or inauspicious time. But sometimes, for example, when there's an eclipse, we don't consume food during that time, or we don't go to sleep. And in the time of eclipse, even Lord Chaitanya, he would go and bathe in the Ganga and chant the holy name of Krishna, remember?
Yeah.
right? That was there. So at certain very inauspicious times, we have to stop certain kinds of activities and engage in devotional service. Now, when we talk about nitya karmas, right, which means things we do every day, but then there is the aspect of naimitika karma. Listen to this carefully, which means that things that we do ritually at certain period of time in our life. For example, the birth of a child. For example, the marriage ceremony of your son or your daughter. Or these are called naimitic karmas. That means activities that we do based on our devotional life, right? Or we take initiation, or we do, house entry into a new house, or we conduct a marriage ceremony and those things. Then actually it is important to look at auspicious dates and times. If you become completely negligent of auspicious dates and times for doing these things, then actually we are not being cautious as to what the Lord has offered us in terms of auspiciousness. So daily we can carry on, because those people who are doing fruitive activities, ritualistic activities, engage in karma kanda, they actually stop the nitya karmas, daily activities. They stop it, right? But we don't stop our daily activities. Like there's a period of 2 weeks, which is called Pitri Paksha, right? And Pitri Paksha, worship of the demigods all stopped. But the devotees don't stop the worship of the Supreme Lord. We don't stop, because these are nitya karmas we do. But it is inauspicious to conduct a marriage ceremony or some important functions, which is a timely function in life within that period. So we should take care of that. Do you follow?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, I'm following. Thank you. It makes a whole lot of sense because, and I think that some of the challenges we have in life, especially in our devotional life, also has to do to negligence, because lack of clarity in the beginning. When we joined devotional service, there are so many things we did absent-mindedly or inattentively that in neglecting some of these functions out of exuberance of ecstasy of, okay, I mean, devotional service, I have no obligation to the demigod, I have no obligation to this, and then we do so many things so-called transcendentally. Then we suffer afterwards because we did not put those things into consideration, because we think that we are transcendentally situated, even though we're just starting to take to the process of devotional service. So it is very good that you explained. Thank you.
Okay, I'll give you an example. Srila Prabhupada will not travel on Ekadashi days on Thursdays. He will not start a travel plan on Thursday. And he would not travel on Ekadashi days. You know that, right?
Yes. Yes.
So how would you place that?
And it's a pure devotee.
The pure devotee. Because Ekadashi days, there's generally a lot more accidents on Ekadashi days. So Prabhupada did not travel on Ekadashi days. So did he give importance to auspicious and inauspicious time? Of course he did. Ekadashi was auspicious for remembering the Lord, but it was inauspicious for traveling.
Yeah. And then these days, sometimes you find yourself traveling on Ekadashi. Sometimes I try to avoid it, but sometimes you couldn't just change it. Like,
yes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where Prabhupada followed that so religiously, but that was his general rule. Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's interesting. No, that's a good example.
Yeah.
So we can deduce from there that we have to take care of that. Okay, so we start this chapter now, text 19.
Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes,
yes,
you mentioned something which I want you to throw more light on it. You mentioned also Thursday. That Prabhupada doesn't travel on Thursdays. And I remember
wouldn't start a travel date on Thursday. I've heard that.
Yes. I remember one time when Srila Japataka Swami came to Ghana. And then all devotees from various yatras came to meet him. I was with him when the Nkoko temple wanted to leave on a Thursday. And in fact, they came to pay farewell to him. And he told them that they must leave before 12 o'clock because it's Thursday.
See?
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
And he learned this from Srila Prabhupada. He's not inventing it.
Yes.
He learned this from Srila Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada's close associate and disciple, so he learned it. So we have a very good example here.
Mm.
So I think we can draw some conclusion on this then, Salika Prabhu.
Yes. Very clear. It does actually answer question. And thank you very much, Rasavan Prabhu, for giving that reference.
Yeah, that's a nice example. Yeah. Okay. So Maitreya Vacha, Maitreya Rishi said, after hearing the words of Brahma, the creator, which were free from all sinful purposes and as sweet as nectar, the Lord heartily laughed and accepted his prayer with a glance laden with love. So the Lord, as Lord Varaha laughed and gave him, a good smile and a glance of love. So the word Nirvyalika is very significant. The prayers of the demigods or devotees of the Lord are free from all sinful purposes, but the prayers of demons always filled with sinful purposes. So the prayers and activities of demons have desires embedded in them. I want this, I want that. This benediction, that benediction. This power, that power. Right? So it's different for the demigods and different for the devotees. And the demon Hiranyaksha became powerful by deriving a boon from Brahma. And after attaining that boon, he created disturbance because of his sinful intentions. The prayers of Brahma and other demigods are not to be compared to the prayers of the demons. Like I said, the prayers of the demigods are different than the prayers of the demons. Their purpose is to please the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Lord smiled. Demons who are never interested in praising the Supreme Lord because they have no information of him go to the demigods, and in Bhagavad Gita, this is condemned. This is text, I think, 19 or 20, text 7, chapter 7. Kama istesya nita jnana prapadyanti anya devata. You go to the demigods because the heart is filled with material desires, and the inclination is get material benefits. And through their knowledge of Vedas and Shastric Pramanas and Karmakanda books, and they see that the demigods will offer certain such benefits, and it's advertised, explained. So therefore they approach the demigods. So persons who go to the demigods and pray for advancement in sinful activities are considered to be bereft of all intelligence. So how do they ask for sinful activities? They ask for power. They ask for dominion. They ask for such and such things. What do you need these things for if you're a servant of the Lord? You don't need. You're dependent on the Lord will protect you. But because you want to compete with the Lord, you want these powers, high intelligence, high knowledge, high this, high that, because you want to compete with the Lord. So demons who have lost all intelligence because they do not know what is actually their self-interest, right? Even if they have information of the Supreme Personality of God, they decline to approach him. Why? Because they've lost intelligence. Maya Purita Jnana. Okay? So it is not possible for them to get their desired boons from the Supreme Lord because their purposes are always sinful. It is said that the dacoits in Bengal used to worship the goddess Kali for fulfillment of their sinful desires to plunder others' property. So to a point, they will be acting like even human beings act like demons here. Dacoity people or bandits, they worship Kali and they'll worship some interesting deity or demigoddess or something. And they'll ask for boon to have power so they can, steal, rape, pillage, and do whatever they want. These are sinful things. And they would avoid going to the Vishnu temple because they might have been unsuccessful in praying to Vishnu. Because Lord Vishnu is not going to allow you go on the path of sin. He will just, not give you benedictions that are not purifying for you. But the demigods will give you the benedictions you want because they are bound by the rules and by the rules and rituals of ritualistic activities. So therefore, the prayers of the demigods or devotees are always tinged by sinful purposes. So that is. So text 2, the Lord who had appeared from the nostrils of Brahma. So you see here, this is called Kalpa Bhed. This is a Bheda. There's a difference in Kalpa. So the narrations of Maitreya Rishi is confusing with something that happened in a different millennium. So he said, the Lord who had appeared from the nostrils of Brahma, he sprang and aimed his mace at the chin of his enemy. I mean, this Hiranyaksha, this Varahadev did not appear from the nostrils of Lord Brahma. Where did he appear from? Come on. They appeared from the womb of Kashyapa. The parents were Kashyapa and Diti. They appeared from they are the children of Kashyapa and Diti. So that Varahadev was fighting with Hiranyaksha, and that Hiranyaksha here, who is fighting with Varahadev, right? First of all, the demons appeared from Diti and Kashyapa, right? The demons appeared from Diti and Kashyapa, and Varahadev, Varahadev, did he appear from the nostrils of Brahma? Not this Varahadev, did not. Yeah, the Sweta Varaha in the Sweta Kalpa, he appeared from the nostrils. So there's a Kalpa Bhed again, right? So the Lord who had appeared from the nostrils of Brahma sprang and aimed his mace at the chin of his enemy, the Hiranyaksha demon, who was stalking fearlessly before him. Okay, so no comment on this here. So let me go to just give me a minute. I will go to see what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says about this. 118, 20 to 19. It says it doesn't give the idea of the Bheda of the thing here also. But anyway, we have analyzed that before in the previous verses. So struck by the demon's mace, however, the Lord's mace slipped from his hand and looked splendid as it fell down whirling. So the demon is taking over the game, the fight, and the mace of the Lord slipped from his hand. Just as when Brahma is saying that the inauspicious time is approaching, which is auspicious for that rascal, but inauspicious for us, for you to win the war, the mace of the Lord slipped from his hand, right? And therefore now, even though the demons had an excellent opportunity to strike this unarmed foe without obstruction, so now Hiranyaksha could strike because the Lord is defenseless, so to speak, because his mace is slipped from his hand. But he respected the law of single combat, thereby kindling the fury of the Supreme Lord. So instead of trying to hit the Lord, he did not. So he's acting like, I have some principles and some values too. You're unarmed, I'm not going to kill you. So this infuriated Lord Vishnu, Lord Varaha. So as the Lord's mace fell to the ground, a cry of alarm rose from the witnessing crowds of gods and rishis. And the personality of God had acknowledged the demon's love of righteousness and therefore invoked the Sudarshan discus. So as he was expecting that this demon is going to attack him, but he appreciated that actually he did not attack. But meanwhile, the Lord had summoned his discus, just in case if that demon decide to play, to hit below the belt or to play, outside the rules, then the Lord has ultimate disc summoned to get rid of Hiranyaksha. But he did not use that. Let us see. As the discus began to revolve in the Lord's hands, and the Lord contended at close quarters with the chief of his Vaikuntha attendants, who had been born as Hiranyaksha, the vile son of Diti, there issued from every direction strange expressions uttered by those who were witnessing from aeroplanes. They had no knowledge of the Lord's reality, and they cried, "May victory attend you. You dispatch him." So they were saying, because they don't know actually that this is Jai Vijay, the Lord's own associates engaging in sports like fight with him. He said, dispatch him, dispatch him. But when the demon saw the personality of Godhead, who had eyes just like lotus petals standing in position before him, armed with his Sudarshan disc, his senses were overpowered by indignation. He began to hiss. So he felt like, I gave you a chance because I did not hit you when your mace was down. Now you summon your discus to kill me. So he became a lot more angry, and he thought he's like a snake, right? The demon who had fearful tusks stared at the personality of God as though to burn him. So springing into the air, he aimed his mace at the Lord, exclaiming at the same time, "Here, you are dead." Like even in fight, people say that, right? Even in films, you say that. You see that. And he sprang into the air and he aimed his mace at the Lord, saying, "Here, I kill you now." O saintly Vidura, while his enemy looked on, the Lord, in his boar form, the enjoyer of all sacrificial offering, playfully knocked down the mace with his left foot. So he knocked down the mace with his left foot, even as it came upon him with the force of a tempest. The Lord then said, "Take up your weapon." So the Lord also returned him the favor. He said, "Take up your weapon, as you are eager to conquer me." So he had lost from his hand his mace. So the Lord also gave him the same favor. Challenged in this word, the demon aimed his mace at the Lord and once more roared loudly. So when the Lord saw that the mace flying towards him, he stood firmly where he was and caught it with the same ease as Garuda, the king of birds, would seize a serpent. So he catch hold of the mace being whirled at him. And those mace has the power of a planet being sent. It's like not a bus, not a mountain, but like a planet being sent to hit you. But the Lord got hold of that. So his valor was frustrated. The great demon felt humiliated and was put out of countenance. So he lost his sort of his charisma as a demon, his strength. So now, because the Lord had caught hold of his mace, and now he kind of, out of pride, he didn't want his pride to be crushed. So he said he was reluctant to take back the mace when it was offered by the personality of Godhead. Right? So it is like there's a lot of false ego going on in the fight, both from a lot of big ego from the Lord and big ego also from the demon, right? So he now took a trident, which was rapacious as flaming fire, and hurled it against the Lord. So now the fight with trident, Trishul, right? And he took a trident and he sent it to try to pierce the Lord, right? So then what happened? Hurled by the mighty demon with all his strength, the flying trident shone bright in the sky, right? So then the Lord used that Sudarshan discus that was already in his hand, and he counteracted the trident that was sent by Hiranyaksha. So that was that, right? A fiery weapon for a fiery weapon. A sharp fiery weapon, which is the trident, and sharp fiery weapon, which is the discus. So weapon for weapon. So because he didn't want to fight with the mace, and the Lord has discussed, he threw a fiery weapon with a sharp blade in it, right? And that was what happened at this point. So there's a significant point here, and Prabhupada makes that point in that purport. He said, the context of the reference given here in regard to Garuda and Indra. Once upon a time, Garuda, the carrier of the Lord, snatched away a nectar pot from the hands of the Lord in heaven in order to liberate his mother, Vinata, from the clutches of his stepmother, Kadru, the mother of the serpents. So then Indra, the king of heaven, hurled his thunderbolt against Garuda. So once a thunderbolt is hurled, is sent, then out of respect for the infallibility of the Indra's weapon, Garuda thought otherwise invincible, right? Being the Lord's dear servant and his Lord's mouth. He dropped one of his wings, which was shattered to pieces by the thunderbolt. So it's like to honor the weapon that was sent, which is infallible by Indra. So he said, okay, you can destroy part of my wing. Right? So the inhabitants of higher planets also sensible that even in process of fighting, they observe the preliminary rules and regulations, of gentleness. They have rules. In this case, Garuda wanted to show respect for Indra. So similarly, there's the idea of he's showing respect for, first, when the Lord did not have a mace in his hand, he did not hit him. Second, when Hiranyaksha's mace had fallen, the Lord did not hit him, gave his mace back. And now the Lord's got a Chakra Sudarshan out, he fight him with an equal kind of powerful weapon. This is a rule. So text 15, the demon was enraged when his trident was cut to pieces by the discourse of the personality of Godhead, the Sudarshan Chakra. So now they start a fist fight. Therefore advanced out the Lord and roaring aloud struck his hard fist against the Lord's broad chest. Right? Then he pounced up and then he came and he tried to hit the Lord with his fist. Okay. Here there's a note in the purport that Shrivatsa is what distinguishes the Supreme Lord from the other inhabitants of Vaikuntha. The Shrivatsa is a mark of Lord Vishnu, which is a white tuft of hair, which is the abode, considered to be the abode of Shrivatsa, where Shri takes her place. So text 16, hit in this manner by the demon, Ovidura, the Lord who had appeared as a first boar, did not feel the least quaking in any part of his body, any more than an elephant would when struck with the wreath of flowers. So he said that fist was nothing more. It was like a mock fight for the Lord, as if someone has just sent him a whole bouquet of flowers to hit him, right? So Prabhupada is talking about it being like a mock fight because the demon is ultimately the Lord's servant and is giving him a big fight here in this, right? Prabhupada talks about the Lord enjoyed the striking on his transcendental body just like a fully grown-up father fighting with his child. Sometimes the father takes pleasure in having a mock fight with his small child. So this is the rasa, this is the lila, it's the pastime of the Lord. The Lord is enjoying the fight. So text 17, the demon, however, employed many conjuring tricks again. So this fight went on, and conjuring tricks, right? At the sight of these people were filled with alarm and thought that there's solution. So it went on, other kinds of conjuring tricks and attacks and counterattacks between the Lord and the inhabitants were actually thinking this is like pralay, this is like annihilation, this is the end of the universe. The fighting enjoyment of the Supreme Lord with his devotee who had been converted into a demon appeared severe enough to bring about the dissolution. So this was a mock fight, but it was really serious fight. It was not just a mock fight because the Lord wanted a real fight. So this was as real as it can get, right? Putting all identities aside. Jai or Vijay being demon, the Lord Vishnu being the most powerful person. Putting all these things aside, that was a real big fight. Okay. So text 8. Now we can stop here, and we have another 18, 20 verses to go. Okay, so that you can read through the fight, and we will read that tomorrow. There's a lot more. The killing of the demon Hiranyaksha, it precedes a lot of description of the fight that goes on. So we can read that tomorrow on Wednesday morning. Okay. Does anyone know how actually Hiranyaksha gets killed? No?
We want to hear it.
Huh?
We want to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Okay, well, we'll tell you on Wednesday.
I only know that Hiranyaksha attempted to use his arms to strangulate Lord Vara. He attempted to use his arms to strangulate him, but he couldn't because no one can capture the Lord.
Yeah, but there's a precise way that he gets killed. We'll discuss that on Wednesday. And it's very humiliating. The way he gets killed is really humiliating.
Kicked by his foot.
No. He gets slapped behind, just a big slap behind his ear. This is so funny. That was the last blow he got. He gets a slap behind his ear, bang, and then he goes, finished, done. That, I mean, to be big demon like that and cause so much aggravation and so much terror and so many different weapons and so many conjuring tricks, and to be slapped behind your ear and fall dead, it's pretty humiliating. And not just the Lord. Hare Krishna. Grantaraja Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Vasindu Vyevacha. Patitaram Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Yantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Bhakti Vaibhava ki jai. Gora Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gora Biminande Haribo.